Today's story is The Great Kitten Bake-Off, a sweet lesson in patience. In the sunny little town of Pawsville, the whole block was buzzing with excitement. The annual neighborhood bake-off was happening that weekend, and all the animals were eager to show off their baking skills. Every year, the bake-off was a fun event where everyone made their favorite treats to share. Twin kittens, Joshua and Buckle, were especially excited. "Let's bake cookies for the bake-off," Joshua suggested one morning, his brown eyes shining. "Everyone loves cookies." Buckle's blue eyes sparkled with delight. "Yes, and we can have the best cookies in all of Pawsville," he added, imagining themselves winning a big blue ribbon. They quickly ran to the kitchen, pulling out their apron and chef's hats. Joshua grabbed a recipe book from the shelf, flipping through the pages until he found a recipe for chocolate chip cookies. "Here it is, Grandma's famous chocolate chip cookies," Joshua declared. "These will be perfect." Buckle nodded eagerly. "Let's get started. The sooner we bake, the sooner we will win that ribbon," he exclaimed, bouncing with excitement. They gathered all the ingredients: flour, sugar, butter, eggs, and of course, chocolate chips. Joshua began reading the instructions, but Buckle was too excited to wait. "I think we should just mix everything together," Buckle said impatiently. "How hard can it be?" But Joshua hesitated. "The recipe says we need to mix the dry ingredients separately from the wet ones." But Buckle waved a paw dismissively. "Who has time for that? Let's do it all at once. It will be faster." And not wanting to argue, Joshua agreed, and the kittens poured all the ingredients into a big bowl. Buckle grabbed a spoon and started stirring. "See? Easy," he said with a grin. But as they mixed, the dough became lumpy and sticky. Joshua's whiskers twitched with concern. "I don't think this looks right, Buckle. Maybe we should have followed the instructions." But Buckle shrugged. "It'll be fine once we bake it," he assured Joshua. They scooped the dough onto a baking tray, making big, uneven blobs. They slid the tray into the oven and waited. Soon, a delicious smell filled the kitchen, and the kittens' tummies rumbled with anticipation. "See, I told you it would turn out fine," Buckle said confidently. But when the timer dinged and they opened the oven, their smiles quickly faded. The cookies had spread into a giant, uneven blob, half burnt and half raw. Chocolate chips were oozing everywhere, and smoke was starting to fill the kitchen. "Oh no," Joshua gasped, quickly grabbing an oven mitt to pull out the tray. "This is a disaster." Buckle's ears drooped as he looked at the mess. "I guess we should have followed the recipe after all," he admitted, feeling disappointed. Just then, Mrs. Whiskers walked in. "What's going on, boys?" she asked, noticing the smoke. "We tried to make cookies for the bake-off," Joshua explained, "but we didn't follow the recipe, and now it's a mess." Mrs. Whiskers smiled kindly. "Baking is like any other skill. It takes practice and patience. Why don't you clean up and try again? This time, we will follow the instructions carefully. I am sure you'll do great." The kittens nodded, feeling encouraged. They cleaned up the kitchen together, laughing as they wiped chocolate smears from their fur and swept up the floor. Once everything was tidy, they gathered the ingredients again and started from the beginning. This time, they carefully measured the ingredients, mixing the dry ones in one bowl and the wet ones in another, just as the recipe instructed. They took turns stirring, making sure the dough was smooth and even. As they placed the dough on the baking tray, Buckle looked at Joshua with a grin. "This feels much better already," he said. Joshua nodded. "Patience and following directions make all the difference," he agreed. They placed the tray in the oven and waited, watching through the glass door as the cookies slowly baked to a perfect golden brown. And when the timer dinged, they opened the oven to reveal a tray of perfectly round, delicious-smelling chocolate chip cookies. "We did it!" Buckle cheered, his blue eyes shining with pride. Joshua smiled, his tail swishing with happiness. "See, when we take our time and follow the instructions, things turn out just right." With their perfectly baked cookies in hand, Joshua and Buckle made their way to the neighborhood square where the bake-off was in full swing. The other animals were amazed at how delicious their cookies were. As the day came to a close, the judges announced the winners. And while Joshua and Buckle didn't win the big blue ribbon, they thoroughly enjoyed participating in eating other people's baking creations. On the way home, Joshua turned to Buckle with a smile. "I'm glad we didn't give up. We learned that good things come to those who are patient and follow directions." Buckle nodded, licking a bit of chocolate from his paw. "And sometimes it takes a little trial and error to get things right." The kittens hugged, proud of their accomplishment and happy with the lesson they had learned. They knew that with patience, teamwork, and a willingness to try again, they could achieve anything. That was the Great Kitten Bake-Off, a sweet lesson in patience. Thanks for listening to Super Bedtime Stories. We hope you enjoyed your listen tonight. Please make sure to like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this book, feel free to click on one of the other videos on the screen for another good, heartwarming family fun story. We strive to provide good moral bedtime stories that parents know are safe for their little ones and also have a good lesson. See you soon.